submit a specific proposal, but we're only asking for your portfolio. For an RFP, a request for proposals, we're asking for a specific proposal for a project. Is the thing going?
I'm sorry that that is happening.
That's okay. Another thing that we would use an RFQ for is to build a pool. Hi, Jeffrey. To build a pool of possible artists for upcoming projects that don't even exist yet. So everybody who submits for these things, we keep them. And at the very least, reach out to you by whatever contact you gave us by email to make sure that we keep you abreast of opportunities that are coming up. So things that you would need to have prepared for either of these, it depends on how much money the project is paying, which affects how competitive it is. And so if it is a project that is going to be maybe under $1,000 in an artist stipend, for us, we're going to make a resume optional. I don't want that to be an obstacle for people, but I do want to go over in these meetings how to have an artist resume, so you do have that in your toolkit. So I don't want to dissuade people from having their resume, and I want to, if you do need assistance writing that, we want to help you write that to have. But also, if it's a small project, you're just getting started, there will be opportunities where if you don't have that, it's okay too. So on your resume, what we're looking for basically, and I assume most of you have resumes, those of you that have joined us tonight. But basically, we don't need to know everything you've ever done. We don't need to know your jobs that you've had in other fields, any relevant education, any relevant experience, if you've had shows, but you don't have to go all the way back. It's not a CV. It's just, what experience do you have that would be relevant to this project? I'm really more interested in your portfolio images. Also, education is helpful, especially when it's a really competitive RFP or RFQ. And it helps to know how long you've been working. For an artist statement and an artist bio, those are two separate things. So for the statement, if any of you have gone to art school, you're well versed in just how obnoxious an art statement can be. I'm sure that when I was in grad school, I had long, wordy, you look up in the thesaurus to see how many big words you can put in there, and really nobody cares and nobody reads it. So what I'm looking for in a statement, and what I taught my students when I was teaching college in art, was just keep it real, 2 to 5 sentences, use normal words, and tell us what inspires you and what is your work about. Maybe there's something about a technique that you want to mention. Really, you should be able to say anything that's relevant. You should be able to say it in 3 sentences. Don't write it for your graduate school professor. Write it for a normal person. The audience should be as though you were sending it to somebody who did not go to art school, somebody who's not even an artist. For the bio, again, just a few sentences. Don't write more than 5 sentences. We don't need to know when you were born. We don't need to know information that's not relevant things that would be relevant are maybe where you grew up or where you live, if that's affected the kind of art or the kind of content that you do. Any sort of experience that you've had in your either art experience, or your art career, or your personal experience that influences the way that you make art. If it's better to have it just be 1 or 2 sentences than a bunch of irrelevant information. Just keep it simple. Again, write it for somebody who is not a graduate professor. Just write it for a lay person. The portfolio is the most important thing. What we're looking for is, well, first of all, it is just pulled up here, is in the past, we've had separate files, so up to 10 separate files per person, and those can get a little bit, it's time consuming to keep those sorted. So we're asking this year for you to put your images on one document. So whether that's a PDF or you just put it in a Word doc and just copy and paste some screenshots of your work, you know, it doesn't have to be anything very professional or you know, very specific as far as the file goes. Just send us a real basic type of file, PNG, JPEG, PDF, even a Word doc. That said, the pictures should be relatively professional. That doesn't mean that you need to hire a photographer to shoot your work, but it should be well lit, and there shouldn't be a bunch of stuff in the background. It should be straightforward, not at a weird angle. We want to see what it actually looks like. And then under each picture, tell us what the media is, and tell us what size it is, and tell us what year you made it. And again, for the portfolio, you should put in your best work, but you should also put in what is relevant to the job. So if you're putting in a proposal for a painting, if you give us 4 images of sculpture that you made, that's great, but it's not gonna help. I think some of this is obvious, but I'll just point some of these things out, and you can ask questions if anything is left over after. And the most important thing, so these are kind of in opposite order of importance, is just your information. So all of this, we want to be able to maybe look up your Instagram or your website, see other work. You have to give us a portfolio, because if we don't have any images to start with, it can't be expected that we'll go digging for them. But give us some information so that we can go see what you're up to. So the number one, we want your contact info so we can get back to you. We need that portfolio, a couple of really nice, neat, well-lit images of your work. And you know, if you have, maybe you did a mural a few years ago and you didn't get a great picture of it, put that on too, because it's super relevant to the proposal. And then for really competitive jobs, or for preference, putting on your artist statement, your bio, and your resume, that will be required for highly competitive jobs. So I guess I'm talking about more than $1,000 or $2,000 for the job. Under that, it's optional, but it does make your application better. Okay, so the RFP is everything, all of those things, plus a proposal image. So in a perfect world, the professional way to do things, and I'm very aware of this, and it is my heart's desire to choose some of the RFQ, some of the artists who submitted their qualifications, up to 3, and then pay them to do a design. In 2021, at this point, we don't have funding for designs. So what I am going to put out this year is probably all RFPs. And we can talk about the jobs that are coming up. I've got at least 14 opportunities for local artists in downtown Aurora, which I'm really excited about. But we will be asking for full color, either drawings or paintings, or it can be digital, as long as you've got hand painted work or spray painted work in your portfolio. So we want it to be, you need to communicate the idea as best you can. Another thing is, sometimes people have really great work. It becomes kind of political and extra layers of challenge when the proposals that come in after the hiring somebody for a design doesn't work out. That can get a little tricky. Also, just because somebody makes a design doesn't mean that they will be hired for the job. But in these RFPs, I am looking to communicate as clearly as possible exactly what we're looking for, to give you the, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I want to help you make the most relevant proposal that you can. So when we say sketch, it doesn't have to be so finished that you'd hang it on a gallery wall, but we really need to have an idea of what your proposal is. Also looking for, and full color. Yeah, full color, or if you can give us a palette and we can see the colors of that palette, that can be a time saver. But we are looking for that color palette, and we're looking for the shapes. We're also looking to see what is the artistic merit of your drawing or painting. Can you knock that out? And then a statement. Is that the next? Okay, so up to 3 designs. Now, because you're submitting designs already that you're not getting paid to do these designs, I don't know. I just feel real sensitive about asking artists to do work for free. We never want to do that. But like I said, we're on a COVID budget. But if you do want to put in more than one idea, you want to save a little time and give us like color swatches for your color palette. Also, you can add a statement to it saying kind of what your idea is, and like direction that, sort of a spectrum of direction you would go with this. Like if you sketch an alegría and it's vertical, you could say, I'm interested in this kind of animal and this kind of color palette, but we could make it, horizontal. But we can kind of see what your sketch is, see what your style is, and kind of work with you from there. So it doesn't have to be final, but it needs to really communicate. This is the exciting part. Okay, so we have 4 RFPs coming up, and 3 of them are for multiple artists. So as we all know, this was quite a year, and only 1 job got done, and we are going to have so many opportunities next year. I'm really excited about it. Been trying to listen and pulling things together this year while we've had some downtime, and I'm excited about what we're doing. So the first mural here is the only one that's not a multiple artist necessarily, and this will be a national search. This project is funded by $10,000 from the National Endowment for the Arts and $10,000 from Aurora Downtown. It was supposed to be done this last year, but COVID. So the theme for the NEA grant was a culture and diversity in your community. So we are doing about a year and a half ago or 2 years, but when we first got the grant, we decided to do an African American heritage mural. So we're kind of looking for some young people. We're looking for faces, not specific faces. That gets awfully political, with some design behind it. So sort of realistic portraiture combined with abstract and like stylized work and real colorful. That mural is going to be on the east facade wall of 105 East Galena. It's right above where the dumpster fire was at Galena and Broadway at the bank, right over that ATM on the second story. And it's approximately 40 feet high by 40 feet wide. The next one is Lot H. So Lot H is a public parking lot it's between Lake Street and Middle Avenue and between Galena and New York. It's right by Dakari that used to be Spizzico. So it's a big U-shaped public parking lot that's not used very often. We would like to start on the north wall with the idea that we could do all three sides eventually. Two of the sides, north and west, are city owned, and then we'll try to get permission to use that southmost wall. But we are going to divide it up into panels that are 6 feet high, right, Kate, and 9 feet wide, with a foot frame around each panel. There are 8 panels, and they are, the project is for local artists. We looked at a lot of different ways of doing this because we are trying to kind of decentralize having all of the direction come from the city for artwork. So this is the public art department offering space for local artists to express their work. These will, eventually get painted over by other local artists doing murals, but we'll sort of like cycle through them. I sort of see it as like a mini Wynwood walls, and we just are gonna have this little area that will have, if we do all 3 sides, I don't know, it could have up to, maybe 24 murals there. So that could be really beautiful activated space that people can be really proud of, because we're really looking for local people to do these. Generally, if the theme can kind of reference culture and community, that's cool. It doesn't have to. There is all of the Illinois state anti-obscenity, anti-hate speech, all of that. I think everybody kind of knows better, but that's in the RFP, part of the policy. So I'd like to take your questions about that after this. Next is a Mexican folk art mural that would be on the New York Street Viaduct wall. So that's under the tracks along LaSalle. Just as you're coming into downtown from like the mall direction, and it's such a great gateway location. So we got a grant for $5,000 to do a cultural mural on that wall from the Burlington Northern Foundation. So that was exciting. And then I bought all of the supplies in the last week or two that we could possibly need to do that wall. So that's been exciting. I also got Montana Gold cans, and then I got Nova paint and additives and primers, and I don't know, it's exciting for me. But you got to use your own paintbrush. So what I'm looking for here is to have these alegrías dancing across the wall. Dancing, you know, so the wall is a big rectangle that I want to say is 80 feet wide and 16 feet high, directly under the tracks. And then there's triangular walls coming down to the sidewalks on either side. So I'd like to have alegrías that get taller, and then we've got them, you know, across the main wall, and then they go back down. So the artist stipend for these, we're really tight on money next year. So the stipends will be similar to the next project, utility boxes, which are going to be paid a little higher than last time, but it'll, depending on the size of the alegría, it will be maybe $600 to $1,200 for the stipend, but materials will be provided. I want to get some big alegrías up there, a lot of pattern, a lot of color, maybe some chimera type where it's combinations, spirit animals. There are also some rust stains and leakage on that wall. It's not the greatest quality of wall surface, but it's a fantastic location. And everybody's been wanting to paint the viaduct walls for a long time. So I was also thinking, and I'd love your feedback on this as well, that we could sort of fit the alegrías around the rust stains and kind of going through. And we don't really have a background. It's just these different, you know, figures going across. And then lastly, Aurora Downtown donated money for utility boxes. So we are putting out RFPs for 6 utility boxes. For this RFP, I've been trying to figure out what the best way to do this is, because there are 3 different sizes of utility boxes. There's 2 huge ones. One is in front of Society 57 at Benton and River, and the other huge one is in front of the Fire Museum, the Aurora Regional Fire Museum at New York and Broadway. And then there are 2 or 3 medium-sized ones. One's at Lake in New York in front of Dakari, the old Spizzico. One is in front of the library at Benton and Lake. And then the other medium-sized one, I'm forgetting, Kate. The other medium one. But then there's a really small one also in front of, across the street from the Aurora Regional Fire Museum. So, you know, it'll be double the stipend to do a big one than it will be to do the little one. Now, when people are doing this, I think when we did this in 2018, we asked to see all sides of the box's design. Because each size is a very different shape, I'd like to request a full color proposal of basically kind of a rectangle, and then a sentence about what you would want to do wrapping that image around a 3-dimensional shape. It's just too hard. I don't want people to make it a certain shape and then they're assigned a different box. So we're going to also, we'll be assigning the box, we'll be assigning designs to specific boxes, kind of, and it'll be sort of based on theme and location. And so some people will end up with a smaller box and some people will end up with a larger box. And what we're looking for, a loose theme for these boxes this year, is abstract, colorful, geometric or not, interpretations of Aurora downtown historical architecture. I think some of the most successful boxes that are downtown right now are pattern. It's actually, well, pattern. I think that ends up looking really good, a lot of color, and so those are the RFPs that will be coming out. So 8, maybe 7-ish, 6 or 7 Alibria artists, and then 6 utility box artists. And all of these, preference is given to Aurora residents and then regional. So, Kate. Oh, and then do you want to talk about community feature weeks, or should we? Okay, all right. We have secrets. Just kidding, we don't. Okay, so if you have any questions, please email me, or you can, if we're connected on Facebook, you just send me a message on Messenger. That's always fine.